Hi, I'm Anna of GidzyBee Creatives, and today is day one of our 30-day challenge where we'll learn 30 new stitches and create a beautiful small throw. To get started, you'll need several colors of your favorite yarn and a hook that fits that yarn. I'm using 15 different colors of a medium weight acrylic yarn from I Love This Yarn that I got at Hobby Lobby, but feel free to use whatever you have on hand. This is a good stash buster project. The only thing is you want to make sure you're using the same weight throughout so that your gauge remains consistent for your entire blanket. So for day one, you'll start with a foundation chain, and each day we'll add a new stitch. Of course, we're going to start with the single crochet today. But the first thing that you need to decide is how wide you want your blanket. So you can do any number of stitches across as long as your stitch count is a multiple of 24 plus 1. So in this instance, my stitch count is 24 plus 1 or 25. You could use 24, 48, 72, 96, 120. I will add a chart here and linked below with typical blanket sizes, but whatever you start with in your chain, that is going to make up the width of your blanket. So we want it to be a multiple of 24 plus 1 extra stitch at the end. Using a multiple of 24 will ensure that all the new stitches that we add can repeat correctly. So be sure to like, follow, share, subscribe so that you don't miss one day of this 30-day challenge. And that's it. Get your yarn, get your hook, and let's get started.
Okay, so I've made some chain stitches here. I know that 48 stitches is approximately 12 inches. So in order to get 30 inches, I'm going to have to do 120 stitches. So I have 48, 72 here, and I'm going to go ahead and finish this chain to make my 120 plus 1, so 121 stitches. All right, so now I have 24, 48, 72, 96, 120, and I have to make one more because I want multiples of 24 plus 1. All right, now we're ready to do our single crochet. All right, so let's get started. To do a single crochet, all you have to do is pretend like you're going to do another chain, but this time you're going to put the head of the hook through the second loop from the chain. So we have that extra one, and then we have our second loop. So we're going to put the head. Notice there is a top of the V and a bottom of the V. We call that the top loop and the bottom loop. We also have over here, if you turn around, we have what we call the back loop, but we're going to put it through the top loop of our V and then yarn over and pull through. That puts 2 loops on your hook, and you're going to yarn over and pull through. That is your first single crochet, and we're just going to do that all the way back across. I'll do a few more slow for you. We're going to go under that top V of the next stitch, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2. Okay, go into the top stitch, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. Again, go into the top V of your next stitch, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2. Now, what you don't want to do is to go back into that hole. Now notice my last stitch kind of stretched it out, so it might look like that's where you want to go next, but you want to make sure, since that new V is already going through that stitch, you want to make sure you're going into the next stitch. You also want to make sure you're not skipping a stitch. There's some stitches we learned that call for that, but the single crochet is not one of them. So you'll just single crochet into every stitch, and I'll meet you at the end of row 1. Okay, I have single crocheted almost to the end. I have a few more stitches to go, and then I'm going to show you how to turn your work. So again, we're going in that top loop, creating our single crochets all the way to the end. Okay, I'm down to the last V. That notch right there signals that we are at the end. So I'm going to go in the top loop one more time, yarn over, pull through, and complete my single crochet. And then I have one loop on my hook. Now, the next thing we're going to do is turn our work to get ready for the next row, but I like to do a chain before I turn my work. It just makes more sense to my hands. So I'm going to chain one, and then simply turn my work over, because we always work from right to left. Okay, so now it's time to start chain two. Now to do that, I'm going to go under the V of my first stitch. So in row one, we worked through the top loop of all of our chains. But now if you see, if I turn my work, we look at the anatomy of our stitches, we have these V's that go along the top of our work. So your goal when you're making the single crochets for row two is to put the head of your hook underneath both of those V's. So that's under the bottom loop and the top loop. And so now we'll have two pieces of yarn that our hook has to go under. So we're going to do that in the first stitch here. Find your V and go under both loops of the V. We have two loops on top of the V right here, and then everything's the same. Yarn over, pull through, we have two loops, yarn over, pull through, one loop. Then we're going to find that next V right here, and we're going to put our hook underneath both sides of that V. Yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through, two loops. Go under the V, under the V. Okay, we're going to do this all the way to the end, and I will meet you at the end of row two. Okay, right here, if you'll notice, I just caught one side of my V, and what that ends up doing is stretching out your yarn. So I'm going to undo that, and I'm going to make sure that we go through both sides of the V. Now we have two on there and all fixed. Okay, we are again to the last few stitches of row two. So once we get to the end, we're going to decide how many rows of single crochet we need for our project. All right, here's my final stitch. Okay, so let's talk about length. Now we have a width. The width of my blanket is 121 stitches. And right now the length is approximately 2 centimeters or 2 rows of single crochets. So what I have to decide now is how many rows I want. In order to do this in inches. We're about 3/4 of an inch. So what I need to decide is how long I want my blanket to be in totality. So for me, since I'm just making a small stroller blanket, my blanket is going to be 36 inches long. I have 30 days to fill that. So roughly 30 days, 30 stitches. So roughly I'm gonna need a little more than 1 inch per stitch. However, I also know that some stitches are wider or some stitches are more fun than the single crochet. So if I have less than a full inch for this stitch, then that means tomorrow I can make it up with a double crochet, as long as by the end of the day of day 2, I have about 2 inches of work. And at the end of 30 days, I'll have my 30 to 36 inches worth. Some days will be a little less than 1 inch. Some days will be a little more than 1 inch. If you're making a 60-inch blanket in length, you have 30 days, 30 stitches. That means each day or each stitch needs to be about 2 inches wide. And then by the end of 30 days, you'll have 60 inches. So there is no right or wrong amount to how many rows you do of each stitch, as long as you are keeping in mind the entire length of your blanket. So that's all I'm going to do of the single crochet. And tomorrow on day 2, we're going to learn the double crochet. See you then.